Welcome to the Focus and Chill podcast, where we discuss productivity tactics that work for neurodivergent individuals.
Every episode, we interview guests with lived experience of neurodiversity who also have a solid productivity and habit game, and pass the learnings on to you, our wise and benevolent audience.
We're your hosts, Jeremy and Joey.
I'm Joey, and I coach creatives to get moving on their most ambitious projects through the power of solid habits and strong focus. I'm also a perpetual student of psychology and perpetually on a quest to a one-armed chin-up.
And I'm Jeremy, a neurospicy software developer turned startup founder, building the Focus Bear app to help people with ADHD and autism thrive at work. My cool party trick is leaving parties early so I can get to sleep in time for my 2-hour-long morning routine. The Focus and Chill podcast is brought to you by Focus Bear, a focus enhancement app for ADHDers. That's adults with both combined autism and ADHD. I'm Jeremy, I'm an ADHDer myself. I'm the founder of Focus Bear and also one of the hosts of this podcast. I built Focus Bear for myself originally because I was constantly getting distracted by my phone and my laptop. I wanted a way to tame my ADHD monkey mind so I'd stop going down rabbit holes and actually get work done, but also get off my computer and my phone in the evening so I'd be able to sleep properly. It's working perfectly for me and it's helping a lot of ADHDs as well. I'd love for you to try it. It's available for Mac, Windows, iOS and Android, and it leverages most of the productivity strategies we talk about on the podcast. You can jump onto focusbear.io or just Google Focus Bear and try it out. Let me know what you think. Welcome to episode number 68 of the Focus and Chill podcast. We're thrilled to be joined by Steve Grace today. Steve is the CEO and founder of the Nudge Group, empowering high-growth companies to thrive on a global stage with a unique fusion of recruitment expertise and powerful storytelling designed to expand your reach and impact worldwide. He's also the founder of Nudge Productions, creating high-quality content to tell stories through every medium, from creating and managing podcasts in both video and audio, newsletter production and management, photography and documentary and filmmaking. Lastly, he's the publisher of both Balance the Grind and Startup Life Unscripted, and host of both the Give It a Nudge and Daily Grind podcast. And he was very kind to have me as a guest on the Balance the Grind website, and really happy to turn the tables now and interview Steve. Thanks a lot for coming on the show.
My absolute pleasure.
So let's start off by hearing about your experience with neurodiversity. When did you realize you weren't neurotypical?
When I was told. Obviously, it wasn't something that was ever really tested when I was younger. Let's not get on to how old I am, but a lot older than everybody else on this call. And I think I probably went for testing. I grew up in the UK, so I remember driving. I was probably about 14. And I remember because my dad just bought a brand new car and we had to drive all the way to Milton Keynes to go for this day of testing. And then we tested for a day, and then they spent a long time explaining to me what I didn't understand in long words, which essentially is a very extreme form of dyslexia. And they also explained to me, I think I've told many people this actually, I'll explain something, the most extreme part of my dyslexia, but also the most amazing part of my brain is that I can't read. I still can't read to this day. It's impossible for me to read. But in substitute of that, subconsciously and completely unknowingly, and the reason it took me so long to learn to read is that my brain has learned the shape of every single word in the English language. So what I do is I see shapes and I know that those shapes mean those words, and it's not a conscious thing, it's happened subconsciously, which is why I couldn't learn to read until I was so long, because it took me so long to learn all the shapes of all the words, because you can think about it, there's a lot. And why I really can't read people's handwriting, and why I can look at a paragraph of written text and say there's no spelling mistakes there, and literally look at it for 20 minutes and then click the Grammarly button and it all goes green because it's all spelt wrong, lessons all, because roughly the shapes are the same, which is fascinating and mind-blowing that your brain has actually got the capacity to do that. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but that blew me away.
I'm really jealous. I'm thinking about how good would it be for learning Chinese, because I'm trying to learn Chinese and I struggle with it because I can't really recognize the shapes. Whereas it sounds like you'd be able to do that. Have you ever learning another language?
I thought the same. And I went off and I said, I'm going to learn all the Asian languages. It's going to be sweet. No good at all. Absolutely terrible. It would still take me just as long, apparently, to learn a language with symbols as it would have done with the English language, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I imagine you were talking about some of the challenges there, but there must be some major upsides to the way your brain works as well. remember hearing that NASA's trying to hire dyslexic scientists because they find that they're able to visualize shapes and rocket parts in a way that normal people can't.
Yeah, I think there's all sorts of upsides. I don't think I'm necessarily aware of them all. It's interesting because my son is 14. He's also dyslexic. He's got very similar dyslexia to me. But for him, we learned this a lot younger and I've been able to explain it for him. But he's going into a world that's much more accepting of it, is aware of it, and looks for the positives. I think when I was growing up, no one looked for the positives. It was purely negative. It was purely seen as a disability, really. Much until I was probably a grown man, I think. What are those positives? It's an interesting question. I think I know what my positives are. I think I've learned what I'm good at. I think I've learned what my strengths are. Whether they're because I'm dyslexic or not, I have never considered that. I've never really, to be honest, these days, it's not something I think about really at all. And I think still people don't understand the problems of it. I'll give you a great example of something that happened 3 days ago. I was talking to my wife, who I've been married to for 20 years and together with for 22. So it would be fair to say she knows me pretty well. And I was explaining to her that the most frustrating thing for me when I'm typing something in a Word document is if I can't spell the word near enough right, then it won't pick it up and autocorrect it. And I said, sometimes I know what the word is, but I can't spell it. So it'll take me 5 minutes to type a word that's close enough that the spell check can actually work out what the word is. And she could not believe that. And think how well she's known me. And it's amazing that you think she's known me so well for so many years, and she still didn't know that I could sit there for 5 minutes trying to spell excitedly or something like that. And isn't that crazy that someone doesn't know that? And I just think even though it's aware, people aren't aware of the daily things that you go through.
Yeah, that must be frustrating.
So I talk a lot, don't write a lot.
Do you find, is it easier now because you've got Grammarly, and do you use speech to text much when you're writing?
I don't. I probably should do. I have a lot of people around me who check. It's funny, if I put a LinkedIn post out, usually I have someone check it. If there's no one around, I'll put it up, and then 3 people from my team who are working remotely will call me and tell me what's wrong with it. And it doesn't matter how long I sit there and look at it and think it's right. That's frustrating. Grammarly is great. It takes me longer to go through Grammarly than it does to type the emails, which is a little frustrating. My emails are very to the point. And I think even my personality has come to that. When I ring someone up, and this frustrates a lot of people, I'm not a good person with niceties. Not because I don't want to, but if I'm doing work, I'll call up and I'll start talking about something. And my team would be like, they sit there for the first 30 seconds trying to work out, what is it he's talking about? I've got to figure it out. I don't go, hey, how are you? What's going on? I'll do that if I meet someone in the street, and I'll do that. I'm a very social person. But when I'm working on emails, they're short and sweet. Let's just get it done, get it over with, and move on. And I think that is probably a learned behavior as a product of not being able to communicate easily when I was younger. And I struggle to not do that. I actually have to consciously think about, no, be polite, say hello, ask them how your day is, even though to some degree I really don't care. I just want to get on with what I'm talking about. So maybe my brain's trained itself to be short and sweet in its communication as well. I don't think I've done any real study on my condition, if you want to call it that, or since that day in Milton Keynes, which is an awful place if you've ever been to Milton Keynes, by the way. Sorry for everyone who lives in Milton Keynes, but they had concrete cows back then. They were it was a nude city, and they were trying to make it look real. So they put concrete cows in the fields to try and make people. Anyway, we're digressing.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same with being very direct. I feel like it's the efficient way to communicate. Was there a certain point where things started getting easier? I imagine high school wouldn't have been that great, but
no, high school was not great. I loved school. I think my father called them limited. And I also had 2 very academic siblings, which is awfully wonderful when you struggle to have a head girl and first in law school in the country, and to have someone like that learns Latin, all that kind of stuff. So I did find that hard. When did things get easier for me? Probably when I fell into my career in recruitment, because it's all about talking on the phone, particularly back then when we didn't have email, as terrifying as that is. So it was a very easy job for me because all I had to do was ring and talk. And that was what I could do. And I found I could do that well. And again, whether that's something that you develop like a muscle because you want to use it more rather than your written skills, although I've learned to write a lot more since then. But I think that was when I began it didn't affect me anymore. It never really bothered me once I left school in terms of how I felt about myself. I felt pretty bad at school about it. There's no question. It makes you feel stupid. You genuinely feel stupid. It doesn't matter how many times people tell you you're not. I went to a very exclusive school in the UK, 6 days a week, Saturday school, the whole kit and caboodle, right? All that stuff, which is a pretty brutal environment as it is. I did enjoy my time there, I really did, but my results, like I said, were limited. But I think once I left school, in that job of recruitment, it didn't bother me. And then it came back and bothered me again later in life, because as the technology advanced, we started with email, and suddenly the written word became much more relevant again. And so it wasn't just all on the phone. And so I was almost regressing in terms of, oh my God, now I've got to write emails and read all the time when I didn't have to do that before. So really that period where I started my career, I was probably at my happiest in terms of it didn't occur to me at all. I was living in London. There wasn't much to read in London other than big shiny signs that flashed at you. And I was on the phone all day. So it was like a perfect environment for me.
Yeah, interesting. I hadn't thought about that period potentially being a really good time, but that makes sense in terms of, I guess there were letters, but maybe there was less emphasis overall on written communication at that point.
Well, I was doing technology recruitment, IT recruitment, so I would have to read resumes, but it wasn't words. Like it was things like AS400, C++, like it was completely different language. So it was symbols again. To your point that we spoke about before, I think that I found probably IT recruitment much easier, and that's probably why I went down that route, because it wasn't written English that I had to deal with. It was just a whole bunch of what was really random letters that technology guys have thrown together and continue to do so, right?
That's interesting about phone calls and IT recruitment, because I work in IT, and I used to get recruiters calling me a lot, and then I told them all, please, I prefer email, but maybe I should have been accommodating and allowed people to call.
Well, no, remember, you're the product. You can do what you like. You went the right route. It's gone very, if you look at the way recruitment's done, much to my frustration, it's text message now, which is difficult to capture from a business owner's point of view, and emails. And I think recruitment, there needs to be verbal communication as well. Videos obviously become a lot more prevalent, but it's gone very much back to written now. There's a lot less. You don't see people banging the phones like they used to, because they don't have to.
I kind of appreciate that maybe voice notes could be a good compromise.
I love voice notes. I love that on WhatsApp. This is my favorite thing. I've worked out how to keep it on. So it took me a while, but when I first started doing them, I didn't realize you could swipe left and keep it on. So I used to hold it, and if I'd leave really long, I'd have this flat part of my thumb. And that was in the first few weeks. And then after about 2 weeks, someone said, oh, you can swipe left. I was like, oh my God, that's so much easier.
I didn't know that myself. You've taught
me. Unless you really do leave a lot, you wouldn't need to ever do it, right? So it's not something you look for.
Amazing. A little hack for me.
You can try that later. Send me a long voice note afterwards.
Yeah. Well, Steve, when you're not sending people podcast length voice memos, what work projects are you concentrating on?
Right now?
Yes.
So as you read out what it seems to be rather extended bio that you now have, the recruitment business is still going along nicely. The production company that we launched, which we launched off the back of the success of the podcast that we did, I'm loving. And again, if you go back to, and I hadn't even really thought about this, there's nothing written in there for me. It's filming, it's going, and I don't really do a lot. I'm learning a lot about filmmaking, and I'm learning a lot about documentary making. I'm learning a lot about lighting. I'm not doing it. I'm learning a lot about it, and I'm doing a lot of presenting, and I'm meeting people, and I'm hearing stories, and I love doing that. So that's really captured my interest. But I'm about 7 months away from launching the most exclusive, expensive private club in Sydney, which is capturing my attention, which is called The Pillars, which is going to be coming up. The website went live today, actually, literally about an hour ago. And the amount of work of building a hospitality venue, which is essentially what a very large private club is, it's a whole building, is mind-blowing. I like doing things I've got no idea how to do until I suddenly realize the enormity of them, and then you're too deep. It's going to be epic. I'm so excited about it. And again, I've got lots of other people to do the written stuff, so I'm just picking finishes, selling memberships, and doing all the things that I love doing, but it's connecting people, it's talking to people. I think that's generally where my skill sets lie, whether it be recruitment, whether it be filmmaking, or whether it be creating a sort of private members club. They've all got that similarity of bringing people together, and I think that's what I love.
You tell us more about the podcast and the films and the private club. I'm intrigued by that. I went to the Brisbane club a couple of months ago. There was an angel investing pitch night. It was an interesting experience. Phone not allowed. I had to wear a shirt and dress up properly. Is The Pillars going to be like that?
No. So The Pillars is designed to bring together two very unique groups of people. You've got a shift of wealth right now where a lot of family offices, the patriarchs are retiring at 70 or 80, and the 40, 50-year-old sons and daughters are taking over the wealth. And they don't want to buy buildings like their dad did. They want to invest in technology. They want to invest in environmental projects, sustainability projects. But they live in a bubble and they don't know anyone in that space. So what we've done is we've created this entire building space where founders who have had some level of success, right? So if you've built a business and exited it and you've proven yourself, and younger family office members and perhaps hedge fund managers and the like come together and hopefully start building things. And really the thought process was behind it is I think we've got a really unique opportunity. There's a lot of money coming into Australia at the moment. There's a lot of bigger companies like Canva that are about to liquidate, which will flood the market with investment money. If we can get the right people in the right rooms together, which we've never really done very well here in Australia, we can build 20 Canvas and we can build 5 more Atlassians and we can build some of the most incredible sustainability projects and we can become world leaders as a country in that. But we have to bring those groups together. And that's why we built the club. And you can wear a t-shirt in there. Because I will be. There's no dress code. There is a very discreet code in there, like a sort of Chatham Rules kind of official thing. And we don't want people taking photos necessarily of other people in there, but you can definitely have your phone. But certainly nothing stuffy. Absolutely not. Trainers, t-shirts, jeans, suits, kilts, whatever you want. It's just fine.
Sounds like a much more relaxing venue than Brisbane Club is. Hopefully everyone migrates from there to the Pillars.
It's a fair walk to Martin Place in Sydney from Brisbane. But yeah, let's bring it down. We'll put some coaches on.
Yeah. And how about the podcast and the blogs, the websites and the films that you're making? Do you want to tell us about them?
Yeah, look, Give It a Nudge is coming up to show 150, which is wild. We started doing that because we were recruiting for startups and no one knew who they were. So we thought, right, let's do a video podcast so that we'll let the founders tell them story and we can use that to help us with the recruitment. And it worked incredibly well. It's grown like a lot. There's a lot of startup founders gone, but now there's ecosystem people want to come on there. We've got a waiting list of 50 people wanting to come on, which is crazy, right? So I really enjoy doing that, but I wanted to do more, but I didn't want to change that show because it's still working. So with Balance the Grind, which is it's a B2C, it's a consumer-facing publication helping people live better, we saw an opportunity there to interview people in a much more relaxed, casual style. And so we're launching this at the moment called The Daily Grind. And it's really about hacks for people. So it's aimed at a more consumer audience. So it's things like, okay, what sort of daily habits can you change? What small changes can you do? How can you increase your efficiency in whatever it is? So it could be anything from health, like diet, ice baths, microdosing, to your career and how you can forward think your career, reading books, blink lists, things like that, to sustainability, what you can do day-to-day, small changes that can help the planet, all the way through to finances, again, whether you do roundup apps or things like that. The idea is we all know, and everybody knows this, thanks to really Atomic Habits, even if you haven't read it, you know, that small changes over a period of time create massive changes. But what small changes should you make? Well, everybody needs different ones. So if we have a publication that we're constantly listing loads of different ones across those 4 different pillars, hopefully people will find ones that they like and that they can follow and they'll all improve their life. We're trying to pick people from all sorts of weird and wonderful, and the crazier, the better, guests to talk about things that people can do. So we've just started filming that. And that's going to be launching in about a month, I think. We've got 5 episodes coming. And then I'm filming a lot more to camera stuff like educational advice, which I do, but feel like a complete imposter doing. Imposter syndrome never leaves you, right? Whatever you're doing. But when you're sitting there talking to a plant, and I normally put a plant in front of me, so I focus and then have the camera on the side. It's the plant's right in front of me now. You feel like, does anyone really care? But then you see the comments and you see how many people watch these things. And I think people, they crave education. And I watch a lot of YouTube. I read a lot of newsletters. I'm always doing things that I'm also trying to sort of push. And I learned that people are far more likely to come back to your content if it's educational than if it's entertainment. If it's entertainment, I'm sure they'll watch it, but they won't necessarily seek it out again. Whereas if it's educational, they will. So we're pushing down that route. And then the rest is just what everyone else wants. We're doing some very cool documentaries. We're going and filming some war games for some military startups. We're filming a whole bunch of founders flying through helicopters in Darwin, just doing lots of cool stuff and getting paid to do it. It's the best job ever. There's a lot happening at the moment. I think I've reached an age where I'm really getting better at saying no to the things I don't want to do and saying yes to the things not that I'm just good at, but also I really want to do and maybe don't know how to do.
Love it. Now, being the owner of Balance the Grind as well, I imagine not working all the time is important, even though work is really fun. What do you do when you're not
I'm really good at that. I should have read your episode again, actually, before I came on here. It's tough. Look, I think part of the reason for Balance the Grind was to explain to people that work-life balance is different for everybody. It depends on your stage of life. If you're single, it's very different to young children, to older children, to retired, and so forth. And if you're a surfer or if you're a person who reads a book, your balance is very different. So that was the purpose of that. But I do think you need balance. I work a lot because I really enjoy it, but I have much, much stricter with what I consider balance. So for me, I exercise every day, 6 days a week. That's not every day, that's 6 days a week. And I've learned to be vigilant about that. That's really important because it helps me do everything else and it really keeps stress levels down. I now go to bed earlier. Everyone knows the importance of sleep. It's actually probably one of the hardest things to change because I was very much work till 4 a.m., get up at 6. I come from that era, right? And these are only really in the last, in fact, if you read my article on Balance to Grind, which was probably done 4 years ago about me, my life's quite different now. My children have also hit teenage years and now have zero interest in spending any time with me whatsoever unless it's at the ATM. So I have a lot more of my own time. And that's weird. Like my wife and I were so freaked out. It's like we don't need to do that. We could go out on a date, we go to dinner. They don't need to be looked after all the time. That happened last year. You just suddenly get this enormous amount of time. So I think that's probably enabled me to do that. But then there's also periods of time where you have to work your ass off and there's no chance and you won't get the sleep you want. That's just as long as it's not for too long. So, that balance is also the balance between leading a really balanced life and not leading a balanced life, because you can't lead a completely balanced life and achieve amazing things. And in my view, because my view of amazing things is probably different to others. So if I want to achieve the things I want to achieve, which are a lot of different things, there are times where I need to have zero balance. But then there'll be other times where I'll go away for a month on a boat and won't do anything. It's hard to explain, but I think at least I'm not writing it down. At least I think I'm getting a balance in some form.
Steve, you were mentioning how sleeping more and exercising more was two habits that it basically helps everything else. Could you tell us a bit more about what you do to optimize productivity during your work hours?
I've started putting a lot more routines. It's fascinating interviewing and reading about all these people because, gosh, that's why everyone should read Balance to Grind, of course. But you just learn so much and you can pick and choose the ones you like. So now my routine is very strict in terms of I get up pretty early. I do everything I can to get to the lounge room to read for half an hour, but I have to go past my office. So all in truth said, probably only 50% of the time do I make it there and read. The other 50% of the time I get and look at my phone or my computer and then I'm gone. So I'm trying to do that. But I think when I do that, I think more clearly. I definitely think more clearly, Clark, and make better decisions if I sleep well and going to bed well. I find it very hard to go to bed, but I'm so proud of myself in the morning. It's almost like a little pat on the back. And the gym is just, there's a no-brainer, any kind of exercise. Or I tend to gym, swim, and run throughout the week. But during the day, I've cut my coffee down. I have a high-performance coffee in the morning, which is actually a Brisbane-based company called Before You Speak. Awesome business, by the way. I love that company. I was introduced to that 4 years ago. I have a green juice. So I've been reviewing green juices for Balance to Grind. So I'm trying all the different green juices at the moment. But that's a new thing. I'm really impressed with how they all work. So that's something that I've done. But I think in the day, my job running all these different companies means I never sit at a desk all day. So I think if you did, you need to break that up. You need to get up, you need to go for walks. Walking meetings are great. If I'm going to get a cab to a meeting, what I'll try and do is line up phone calls and then I'll walk to that meeting, even if it's an hour, and I'll make those phone calls on that walk. That's a great way of really just changing things up. But I think don't do any one thing for more than 45 minutes has been the thing that I've tried to stick to. Obviously, sometimes you get engrossed in things or there are deadlines. But I'm lucky in that my job enables me to walk around a lot. I'm going from place to place. I'm meeting people. I've got different companies, different meetings. So I don't necessarily struggle too much to be productive in that way. Although, because it's such a big question, right? Everyone tells me I have too many things going on and I should focus. I've been trying to explain to someone this morning that all the different things I do are all intertwined in some way and feed into each other. So the focus is that they all actually feed each other. So I am focused, even though people don't believe me. But I'm just doing a lot of different things for a bigger, higher goal in that they're all going towards that. So I'm kind of building a mountain with 4 sides, put it that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk a little bit more about how getting more focus is like one of the really big levers that people talk about in terms of productivity. And you're saying it doesn't quite work for you because, hey, everything is connected. You might not be able to get the synergy if you worked on things separately. Could you tell us a bit more about any other productivity advice out there that you perhaps don't find as helpful as other people?
Water. Honestly, if I haven't drank much today, this water bottle, having that and getting through that brings a hell of a lot of productivity. If you are dehydrated, and I have noticed this significantly, when I have a really good day and I'm like coming out of here thinking, I just smashed it today, it's the days that I drink a lot of water, it gives you a lot of energy. I've actually been sent some drinks to test. I won't show them because we can't be advertising, but they're nootropic drinks. Have you heard of these?
Yeah.
These are supposed to very much help with productivity as well. I think.
Happy for you to advertise if you think any of them are good.
Well, I haven't tried them yet. They're called Brain Boost Savvy Drinks, nootropics. I'm going to try those. But I think I make lists, and everyone says you shouldn't make lists now. It's the new thing. I'm hearing it on every podcast. Stop making lists.
Really?
Oh my God, I've just started making lists, and now I'm not supposed to make lists anymore. But I do find that lists where I have different books for different things so that things don't get lost. So I have, for example, you can see here, I won't show you them all, but these are my books that I carry everywhere. So I have 4 books, right? So they're all for different parts. So they've all got little things written on them. So that keeps me focused because I can look at them at the right time. Whereas when I had them all in one book, I'd see something and get distracted. Turning my email off when I'm trying to do some sort of actual thinking, like having that off. I don't have my phone anywhere near my bedroom or anything like that. In fact, my phone's not really allowed upstairs in my house. I'm trying to think what else from a productivity point of view. There's a lot of things you can do, but I think it's just trying to build in little habits that you stick to. But I do think measurement is probably the key thing to having any kind of focus. And if you're not measuring it, you really don't know. And I know that from being a business owner, whereas if you don't measure things and you think they're great, and then someone shows the data and you're like, oh my God, and data can really shock you. So if there's any way of having data, and I wore a Whoop band for 2 years, taught me a hell of a lot about myself. I've worn a Vivli, it was like a thing that's stuck on there in a needle, and you wear it for 2 weeks and it measures your glucose levels. That taught me a lot about which foods are good for me, which foods aren't, which help me think, which don't. There's so much out there you can do. So again, you can probably tell, I like shiny new things all the time. But I think as long as you've got outcomes in there, I'm not a journaler. I would love to be, but I'm not. But I do have quarterly goals. And I do have with myself and my team an accountability meeting every week on a Monday at midday where we sit down and we go, this is what I'm going to do. And if you don't do it, it doesn't matter, right? There's no punishment. It's not like a micromanagement tool. It's just you're embarrassed because you said you're going to do it and you didn't. And that keeps you very focused. Unfortunately, sometimes that means you're cramming last minute on a Sunday night to do things you should have done on Wednesday. But there's a lot of little things. I think the accountability meeting has probably been the biggest change I put in maybe 3 years ago that I've just stuck to religiously because it really not just makes me accountable, it gives me a sense of achievement. And human beings, we all know, need to feel like they're moving forwards at all times to feel fulfilled. It doesn't matter what's on that accountability meeting, it could be something simple, like some of the team will have, I'm going to clean my earpods out because I've been wanting to do it for a month. They feel so much better if they've done that next week. So it's amazing how little things like that and recognizing them make you feel better, which, like anything in life, if it makes you feel good, guess what? You want to do it again. Just like Kit Kats, right? Kit Kats make you feel good, you want to do it again. Same thing.
I'm intrigued by the 4 different books. Are they for the different businesses?
No, you'd think so, wouldn't you? You would think so. 4 companies, 4 books, not at all. Are they? So do you want to know what they're for? So one is I still do recruitment. So I have candidate interview notes when I interview candidates. So otherwise they get lost. This is client briefs. That can be any of the companies together. So anything a client's asked me to do goes in there. Now, when I film Give It a Nudge, I do zero research on my customers. There's no structure. The show has been designed specifically like that. I don't want to know anything about them. I don't want anything. I want the whole show. There's no structured questioning. There's nothing. It's completely off the cuff. It's just what happens goes. Questions come to me from their answers. However, when I do the daily grind, I research them. So that's my research on my guests. I research the hell out of them because it's a very different podcast. We're trying to receive something different. So I want to know all sorts of different things here. And then this is my ideas book. So I just write down my ideas. And then the other book that I don't have because it doesn't work, and now I just do it, is things that I need to do that I remember throughout the day. I just email myself. I get probably 62 emails a day from myself. So yeah, not 4 different books, but for not 4 different companies, but 4 very different things that keep me focused. When I open that book, I never have more than 1 book open. It's OCD, huh?
I've got a lot of notebooks up here as well, so it seems like a good idea.
And have you noticed they're all different colors as well? That's because I can't always read what's written on the front of them.
I'm intrigued by the turning the email off, but still using email to log the notes? Do you use a different email app so that you don't see any inbound emails as you're sending an email to yourself?
I get Siri to do it.
Ah, okay.
So I use Siri a lot. I use Siri for text messages. I use Siri to call people, and I use Siri to send myself emails. And Siri obviously listens to me 24 hours a day and uses it to sell my data to advertisers, as we all know. So Siri is flat out on my phone. I'm looking forward to the Siri update to see what happens. I think it's coming soon, someone.
Oh, yeah, the one where it's going to have the equivalent of ChatGPT in there.
That's just frightening, isn't it?
You've got so many things here. We're taking notes and we're up to suggestion number P. I'm so exhausted by hearing all your productivity tactics that I need to have a break. You can have a Kit Kat and we'll come back in a bit.
Hi there, Focus and Chillers. Are you ready to supercharge your knowledge in the realms of creativity, tech, and psychology? Come check out my fortnightly newsletter. In each edition, you'll get quick wins and actionable takeaways that you can put into practice right away. If this sounds like you, I'd love to have you as a reader. Subscribe for your fortnightly dose of insights. The link is in the show notes. And now, let's get back to the show. And we're back. Steve's had a Kit Kat. Jeremy's had a nap. I've had a cup of tea. So Steve, can you tell us a little bit more about your morning routine, what it looks like and how it's evolved over time? And one thing that I'd really like to ask you about is you mentioned getting up early and what's early for you?
So early for me now is about 5:30. I read the book, The 5 a.m. Club, or I listened to it. I listened to everything on Audible. And I really wanted to try that, but it doesn't have to be 5 a.m. as well. They do say that in the book. But I like to go to bed about 11. So if I get up at 5:30, that's 6.5 hours, because I fall asleep like that. And if it goes till 6, that's fine still. So if I get 7 hours, it's fine. I can't sleep past 7 hours. I've tried all sorts of different things, no pressure, different times of day. I seem to just wake up bang on 7 hours. So that's fine. 7 works for me. So 6.5 to 7 is pretty good for me. That's the time I get up. I probably get up a little earlier in summer than winter. I hate the cold. That's why I moved from England to Australia. I am a solar-powered human. I'm sure of it. I'm like the first sustainable human being powered. I don't need to eat. I just need the sun. But I get up. I go downstairs straight away. I don't go in the bathroom. I go straight downstairs. My wife invariably does not get up. She goes to bed hours before me and gets up hours after me. I don't know how she sleeps for so long. It's completely beyond me. So I go downstairs. I drink sort of half a bottle of fizzy water. And during that time, the kettle's on. I then make my green juice, have a magnesium tablet, and then I have my supercharged coffee, and that's all I'll do. Then I'll go back upstairs. All the time I'm trying to avoid my office and my phone. I'll go back upstairs. I'll wake the kids up, and they take forever to get up because they're teenagers. So then I come back downstairs, and that's when I try and do my reading, and I try to get 15 minutes to half an hour, or I get distracted by my phone. If I get distracted by my phone, 15 minutes later, I get annoyed with myself for being distracted by my phone. I go back inside. I'll wake the kids up again because they won't have got up. And then I'll go and have a shower. I wet shave my head every morning with a Gillette. So I do that, put the contacts in, all that sort of business. Just started wearing contacts, very exciting. If I'm going to the gym, I'll get my gym gear on. I'll make a protein shake. I won't eat generally unless I'm doing, so I tend to do 3 weight sessions because as you get older, they say you've got to have muscle. And I'll do 1 week, 1 day of running and 1 week, 1 day of swimming. So if I'm running or swimming, I'll probably eat a slice of toast because otherwise I find I just get absolutely exhausted. If I'm not, I won't eat anything. If I'm taking the kids to school or not, it depends if they go. There's different days, right? If they're going to rugby practice basketball, otherwise I just head off. I always go to the gym on the way to work, go to the gym, do my gym, have my protein shake, get changed, go into work. When I'm in work, it's game on. It's different. I don't have any meetings before 11 unless I absolutely have to. So then it just depends. My days are completely different. Every single day is totally different. Other than Monday where I have my one accountability meeting and Tuesday where I have my UK accountability because we have a UK office at 6 p.m. I don't have any other set meetings. But my diary will be booked out pretty much 2 weeks in advance. So every day is completely different. But that's how I do it. So I've tried not to eat too much. I've tried the fasting. It does work. It does make you feel better. I do get really hungry. I don't get hangry. I just get hungry. So that's pretty much it. I don't think we go any further. We'll hit lunch.
Sounds like a fantastic way to begin the day. And then you said in the evening, you just go to sleep immediately. Do you have a wind down routine or it's not really needed?
So I'll tend to go home. I don't stay in the office. I'm pretty much in 5 days a week again now because I like being in the office and we got the studio. So I like being in the studio. I'll go home around 6-ish, right? And then I'll faff around, say hello to everyone who's there, usually just the dog, maybe just check emails after the drive or do something little. And then we'll probably maybe work till sort of 7ish, and then we'll eat. After we've eaten, I'll then work until probably 9, and then I stop working. And that's something that I never used to do, unless it's one of those times where I don't have to. And then I'll either go and do a bit of scrolling on my phone. I might as well admit it because it happens. I try not to. Or I'll go and watch some really bad TV. I love movies, complete movie buff, which is also a problem because even with every single streaming platform known to man, I struggle to find movies I haven't seen. So I end up watching a lot of really bad movies, but I find that's the easiest way for my brain to go. I have tried reading before bed. If I do it, I tend to not go to bed. I'll read late. And I actually really bizarrely now love reading. I read a lot of books to review for Balance to Grind. So I print them out on A4. I find them much easier to read that way. But yeah, then I think about the book all night. So I try and watch just really bad TV. And then I go upstairs, I'll lie down, I fall asleep. I know a lot of people are very jealous of that.
Well, Steve, it's been wonderful having you on. Where can people connect with you and your work?
2 places are probably best. LinkedIn's always good, but I get about 100 messages a day, so that's a little frustrating. So probably go on the website, thenudgegroup.com. All the businesses are on there. All my details are on there. You can send me a message on there. But if not, LinkedIn is also the best place.
And do you have any final words or asks for our audience?
I just thought of another productivity hit that I've just discovered. Lo-fi music. It's awesome. It is awesome. I like usually hyper music. You can't tell that from my personality, I'm sure. But I've tried this lo-fi music. Oh my God. I can work for longer sustained periods concentrating. So that is probably my biggest hit. And for your audience, I think, look, if anything happens to you that you feel is limiting you, you just need to find a way to get that out of your head and reframe it in a different way. And you'll find there's nothing limiting you other than yourself.
Love it. Thanks so much, Steve.
Pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Focus and Chill podcast. To listen to other episodes, jump onto podcast.focusbear.io. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or you know someone who'd be a good fit, email us at team@focusbear.io. Otherwise, stay focused, stay chilled, and peace out.